Hi, it's me again, speaking from a very, very frozen, cold Ken's veg patch. You'll have to excuse me throat, I'm just getting over a nasty little patch, but I think I'll survive. Get plenty of fresh veg down me and built up. It's been a very, very cold last week or so things have gone backwards, but we're just about coping. And this video is really just a progress report on the things we've done in the last few videos. So it's a bit cold out here, we'll just whiz around the garden, then we'll go inside the greenhouse and we'll have a look at what we've been growing, and I'll just give you some hints on how you can get some early salad and veg. So we'll have a look at the broad beans first. This way, Mr. Cameraman. As you can see, they're struggling with the snow and this frozen solid, and these are far too big for what they should be at this time of year. They should really just be coming through the ground, but I think with a bit of TLC we'll be able to look after them. They might want a bit of straightening up when the ice is gone. I think we've got about another 48 hours of this, so I'll get at them, and if they do survive and grow okay, they will be a very early crop. So that's the broad beans. We'll have a quick look at the garlic, which we put in, I think it was in the October video. Quite pleased with that. So the garlic's over here. We're just making one or two changes to the kitchen garden, but this is the garlic. If you remember, there's two varieties here, and everyone's took. I think there's 8 or 9 rows and I think 7 across, but everyone's took, and this is the stage it should be at for garlic growing now. The ground's frozen solid, but it's at this stage. If you look in the books, it said garlic wants a cold patch, and this is when the clove that we grew is swelling, but is actually splitting into individual cloves. That's what the cold does, so it does need this cold patch, so I'm quite pleased with that. The deposit you can see in between, that's wood ash from the wood burning stove. I only burn clean logs, so there's nothing obnoxious in it, and that's a good feed for them, so we'll keep up to date with that, but touch wood, I'm quite happy with that. The only other thing I'd like you to see, I've nearly dug all the beds over. We've used all the compost bin now, they've all been dug, and we've got compost incorporated, so when we get rid of the sprouts and everything else, I'll dig everything out, and then we're all ready for the new season, which will be on us before we know where we are. So anyway, we'll get back in the greenhouse and have a look there where it's a bit warmer. Right, we're back in the greenhouse. It's a bit warmer in here now. I've lots to show you, and I hope I can remember it all. If you can remember about Christmas time, or November it was, we put the little tiny potatoes and we chitted them in the egg trays, and I think I showed you as they were starting to sprout. Well, they have actually gone a bit too far with the warm weather we had before Christmas, and if you just bear with me a minute, but these are the potatoes. Now that's all very good, but these are at a stage that they should be at probably in February, and they're ready to go into big pots like this. I put 3 in a pot, and that's what we actually grow the potatoes in. But it was a dilemma. This is what successful gardening is all about. Is like a lot of the time it's damage limitation. So they are actually suffering there, they're getting nowhere, they're just hanging. So this side of the greenhouse, there's no heat in this, so I've had to just make this shelter. Now there's no heat at all in here, and it's been getting down to -5 at night, but what I've done, this is just bubble wrap, and I've made a wigwam out of it. Hope I don't let it fall and trap me. And these are the potatoes that, to say at Christmas, they were only just showing through the soil. So I've put 3 in one of these pots, and they are making progress. You can see how much they've gone ahead of these, and when the weather does come slightly better, I'll risk it without this. Well, they'll have to come out for the room, and I'll just get this pot, and they will actually go into the big final pot, and that's the pot that they will produce the potatoes in. So they're coping quite well. These are sweet peas, they're not really veg, so don't get excited about that. They're just, I love my sweet peas, but they're keeping nicely. This is a very old maximum minimum thermometer. It sets itself on the maximum temperature that something's been at, and it records the minimum temperature in the night. Right now it's about 2:30 in the afternoon, and it's at 60 degrees, which is absolutely perfect for those. In the night it went down to 40, but for a greenhouse without heating, that's very good, and these potatoes won't suffer at that. Unfortunately though, the downside is it's been up to 120 sometime this morning, which is no good to anything. Life can't really exist at that, so the sooner this cold spell goes and I can get rid of this, the better. So that's the potatoes. Here, there's a tray of Hispy cabbage. You might have seen Hispy cabbage in the shops. It's a very fast maturing spring cabbage. This I'll grow. You can see the poor plants are seeking the light, so it's not ideal growing conditions, but as I keep saying, it's damage limitation. They'll probably be quite long, spindly seedlings, but with a cabbage you can bury some of the stem when you pot them up. So I'll wait while they get the first true pair of leaves and pot them up, and we should be eating this probably April or so, when a lot of people are just planting cabbage. So that's the spring cabbage. The potatoes. The tomatoes that we sold, yes, we sold them when the Christmas tree was up, if you can remember the video. That's them now. They've really gone past the potting stage, but later on in this video I'll show you how to pot some up. And the ones that I've got under the lights, which there are some still photos, they'll be on the website, which will be coming on stream soon hopefully. But out of those I've picked the best plants. If you remember, I only really need about 4 or 5 plants, but those are the ones that's growing under lights, and they're nice, sturdy, healthy tomato plants, so I'm quite pleased with those. I've also, this is Calvin Wonder peas. That's another variety you'll see on the website that I recommend. These are very early maturing, quite a short stem plant, grows about 2 foot tall, and there's 2 in each one, and I've let them grow a leaf and a root wrapped in tissue like I did with the broad beans, and these will be good. They're quite hard, frost hardy, so these will go in the cold frames as soon as the weather picks up slightly, but when they've all germinated. So we'll have very early peas. So that's the potatoes, that's the peas. And the only other thing that we've got in here, or another thing, if you just excuse me squeaking round, these are going to be my early carrots. Now I managed to get hold of nice long pots. You see people buying carrot plants from garden centres, and they're in little shallow trays. But if you think the taproot goes down, it hits the bottom of the tray and it'll turn sideways. If you plant a plant like that, the root doesn't straighten out. You get a carrot that goes down and goes long ways and then downwards, and that's where you get a wiggly carrot. These are one called Amsterdam Forcing. They're only about a 5-inch long carrot, so by the time they reach there they'll be at the natural length. So we'll force these, and in about end of February, March, we'll be able to eat them. They'll probably be as thick as pencils. You don't need to peel them, but they'll be ideal in salads, and if you mix them with peas they make a beautiful veg. But we'll be actually eating nice sweet homegrown carrots in end of February, March. And I'll eat the thinnings, and then what happens, this will be quite a bush about that big, and I'll put these outside in my carrot bed, dig a hole big enough for that and plunge it, and they'll romp away. And I'll actually have carrots with that much fern on the top growing, when most people are thinking, well, I might sow some carrots. This is how I sow, well, I've early carrots. The only other thing, excuse me, keep bobbing in and out. This is our sweet peppers, a red pepper. This is, I've got one in there, a pointed one, and this is just what we call a bell pepper. That's a square, blocky one. I only sold these 6 days ago, so there's plenty of those. That's a nice, I've not really mentioned that, but this is an F1 hybrid. You'll hear me mention that a lot. An F1 is one that has been a cross. It's called a first filial cross, and it means that it's been bred off two or a family of plants to produce a really successful plant with all the good attributes of each individual parent. But you cannot get seed off those, so that's why F1 hybrid seeds, I think there's about 10 seeds there, and they probably cost me about £3. They're always dear, but they're worth it because they've got all the attributes of everything. So I put them back where it's warm, and then I'll just set my little bench up, and we'll just show you how I managed to achieve these things. And with one more thing, we're going to sow some spring onions and some beetroot in modules. So I'll set the bench up now. Right, we've set up and we're ready to do 1 or 2 bits of potting. Excuse me, voice again. First thing I'll show you is how we did the carrots. You'd have to source some pots. I don't know where I got these from, but these are ideal because obviously you can grow a carrot the full length. So for these, I'm using a cheapish compost, just a cheap supermarket compost, because we don't need anything very rich. Carrots don't really want rich soil, so just a nice covering like that. Tap it down, get rid of the air, top it up a little bit. That's all we need, and you could do this on a windowsill at home if you haven't got great big facilities. You just need to tamp it down reasonably flat, and then I say the carrot I'm using, nope, wrong one. The carrot I'm using is one called Amsterdam Forcing. You'll see that we've got the varieties on the website, which should be coming on stream soon. Just a small pinch of seed. Just put the seeds possibly 3/4 of an inch apart if you can do it. Do the outside first, because that's where people miss it and they get the big clump of seed in the middle. So very little seed, because but this is actually thicker than what you would normally sow them, because it's going to be the thinnings that we eat. And even a carrot as thick as a drinking straw and about 3 inch long, you can damn near see through it. If you eat that, it's absolutely gorgeous. If you've never had a fresh pulled carrot like that, you don't know what you're missing. And everybody should grow this kind of thing. I don't know if you can see that, Mr. Cameraman. That's perfect, that there now. The carrots will germinate on the surface, but we don't want them to dry out, so I'll put that back carefully, because I want to do a few more of these when we're off camera. What we'll do, we'll just get my homemade riddle and get a little bit of that soil and just a little snufter. That's ample, that, just to make sure they don't dry out. And what we'll do with those, when I grow up, I'm going to have a great big greenhouse. I can have these things at hand. We'll stand that in there and stand it in there and fill that with water and let it take the water up from the soil rather than disturb the top. Capillary action will take the water up and this will get wet, and that's ideal. So that's going to be the carrots that we'll be planting out later on in the spring in the pot. That's the carrots. The potatoes, if you remember what I've just said, we're having to put them in these pots. Now, for these, we want a richer soil, because potatoes are bulk feeders. When you think you get these great big tubers, they don't come from the air. Well, they do in a way, but they've got to come from somewhere, so they want lots and lots of nutrients. So this is a compost that's got, can you see, they look like slug eggs, but those are slow release fertiliser, and that'll keep them going a lot longer than the other compost. So that's enough there. You just knock them out of, if you want to knock a plant out of a pot, just go like that and tap it. Can you see these are the bits that's going to form the tubers? So we'll get that, just put one in each corner there, bury it down a little bit, knock the roots out. Now these are in bigger pots than the others, they're just about going to go in, but we'll squidge that down and we'll have to take a bit of soil out there to make room for the last one. And then put that in there, squidge it down hard, and then, oh, that's the wrong compost. Did you spot my deliberate mistake then? Some more compost on there, and I say these will grow in these pots for about 3 or 4 weeks until it looks like the real nasty frosts have gone, and when that happens we'll get some really strong compost with some manure in the bottom and plunge those in there, and they will be the ones, the pots that we get the potatoes in. So that's the carrots, that's the potatoes, and now the last thing I'm going to do, you will find quite interesting, I hope. These are, I say I've referred to these in the website, but these are what you call modules, and these are ones I've recycled. I've actually, I think I bought geranium seedlings in those. So I'll just show you 2 crops that we're going to do in these. This is this light soil again, the one that's not really got a lot. If you buy ready-made compost from a supermarket or anywhere, if you look carefully, on the side it said nutrients good for say 4 weeks. I've got people say to me, you know, planting my window boxes up with this compost and the plants are dead in about 5 weeks, but this, it's only peat and organic matter, but there's fertiliser put in, but it's a limited lifespan, about 4 or 5 weeks if you allow for that. So I'll only need these in here for 4 or 5 weeks. So we'll just do that to make an indentation. And so these are beetroot. Now I love beetroot, little baby beetroot, the size of small golf balls. What you need is say 1, 2, 3 in a module. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3. Right, there we are. That's the seed of the beetroot. We've got about 3 or 4 seeds in each module. All we need to do now, the bigger the seed, the more you have to bury it. Although having said that, if you remember on the tomato seeds, tomatoes need light to germinate, so it doesn't always work like that. But anyway, with beetroot, we'll just give it a nice little gentle covering of that light compost, just to stop them drying out on the surface. Squash down. There we are now, it's covered, it's just tamped down enough. So what we do again, we don't want to disturb it, so we'll just take a little tiny tray like that, a drop of water. Another thing as well I must mention, this time of year when you're watering, don't go out to the water butt and get water that's got ice in, especially with soft things like tomatoes. You need water that's been stood in the greenhouse for 24 hours because it can give them a nasty shock. Imagine jumping in a bath with ice in, you'd soon be out of it. So plants are much the same, so always acclimatise the water. So that's the beetroot, it'll just about fit in there, and that'll take the water up nicely without disturbing the top. And I'll probably do about 4 of those. That'll give me 4 20s, 80 plants, and hopefully a couple of months we'll be putting these out. We'll probably put them in cold frames and we should get some lovely early beetroot. The other thing that lends itself to this type of forcing is spring onions. And as I've said in the website, the variety I grow, it's a very, very old one, it's been going nearly as long as me, called White Lisbon. So all you do there, we just get the same consistency, not a very strong compost, take another module, squidge it down like that, so it gives you a little indentation, and then get your onion seed. These are like little lumps of charcoal. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen onion seeds, but they are quite interesting to go look at those all day long and imagine all sorts of things. Just, I always put 4 in each one of these, so 4 in each. Right, I don't know if you can you zoom in on that to look a bit closer? That's them done. There's more than 4 in some, but there's about 4 in each module. So that's ready for the same treatment as the beetroot. Perhaps not as much soil, so just a light dusting of soil on this. That's perfect. Can you see, if you look at that, Mr. Cameraman, you can see that the water already has soaked up, and that's enough. It's not too hot, too much water, because if you do get them too wet, they can rot the seed before they germinate. So that's taking the water up. You lift it out, you can feel it's quite heavy. And we'll do the same with the spring onions. And I'll probably do another 4 of those and we'll have plenty. So that's it for the January vid. The next one's obviously February. And February we're really getting into the growing season, so I'll be sowing things like shallots and probably a few collies. We might even, if the weather's clement, we might even be moving stuff out to the cold frame. So things are really starting to swing now, so it should get more and more exciting. I just hope I can contain myself long enough till we do the next one. So we'll see you next time at Ken's Veg Patch.